It took Obito about 17 years to carry out the Eye of the Moon plan and plunge the world into infinite Tsukuyomi. The lack of haste is understandable. The man in the mask did not want to simply sing everyone a lullaby. He wanted to take revenge on everything he hated in the rotten ninja system, craved for people to suffer, and sought to make the real world such a disgusting place that others themselves would want to leave it and remain in the world of dreams. But let us imagine that the Uchiha decided to cast aside his personal ambitions and focus on the plan that Madara bequeathed to him. Barely leaving his hideout, he simply took it and began moving toward the Eye of the Moon, not by roundabout paths through intrigues, conspiracies, and dozens of puppet people, but by his own strength. If you want a job done well, do it yourself. Will he be able to achieve success without destroying Konoha, without years of planning the organization's actions, and without a war? A speedrun of the Eye of the Moon, let's go. Day 1. Obito teleports to the unsuspecting Nagato, kills him, pulls him into Kamui, and takes his eyes. Madara placed his bet on the Uzumaki, but Obito is not Madara. In the manga and anime, he obtained the Rinnegan anyway, just many years later. So why wait? Years of manipulation and using Nagato are long and tedious. It is much easier to immediately obtain the Eyes of God for himself. After the guy's death, Obito transplants the Rinnegan. Day 2. Obito gets used to the new eyes and summons the Gedomazo. Now he is ready to capture the Jinchuriki. At the beginning of the second season, sealing the beasts required an entire ritual involving many people, lasting 3 days. According to Obito's idea, none of this will be necessary. After all, he has chains that allow him to instantly place a tailed beast into the statue. Yes, we do not fully know how these chains work. Many believe that the statue absorbed the beasts so easily because they had already been sealed inside it before and simply went out for a walk. This assumption is supported by Madara, who previously sealed the 8 tails and the 9 tails with chains. They were not inside the statue. One could object that small particles of their chakra were already there, and therefore the resealing went smoothly. But you understand that in such a case, nothing prevents Obito from first tearing off a small piece of the tailed beast, say a tail or an ear, feeding that chakra to the statue, and only then sealing the rest of the beast without any problems, if everything really works according to that principle. So, I believe that the Uchiha can in any case use the chains for instant sealing of the tailed beasts. Day 3. Obito goes hunting. It will not be difficult for him to locate the Jinchuriki. After all, he has Zetsu at his disposal. In the worst case, he can use Sharingan hypnosis to interrogate some passerby. I do not think gathering information will take much time. First of all, he goes after the one-tailed of the Sand Village. At that time, the Jinchuriki was already Gaara, although he was not even a year old yet. So it will not be difficult for Obito to move him to his hideout. To seal the beast with the chain, it needs to be extracted. And for this, the Sharingan is enough for Obito. Of course, in Kushina's case, the seal was weakened by childbirth. But come on, I do not think the man in the mask will have trouble dealing with the seals of other villages, even if he has to tinker a bit with unsealing. Thus, he captures Shukaku, and the baby Gaara dies. Day 4. Obito goes to the Cloud Village for the Two Tails. At that time, the Jinchuriki was already Yukito. She was about 12 years old. Despite the fact that at that age she could still put up a fight, let's be honest. Here and further on, Jinchuriki lost to ordinary Akatsuki members. Against a man with Mangekyo, Sharingan, Rinnegan, and Hashirama's cells, these children simply have nothing to oppose. Moreover, Obito only needed an ordinary Sharingan to take control of Kurama. Yugito will be captured one way or another. Day 5. The Three Tails and the Mist Village, no comments here. After Rin's death, the Jinchuriki became Yugura. We all remember very well how Obito controlled him. Capturing Aizabu will not be any trouble at all. Day 6. The capture of the Four Tails, whose Jinchuriki was Roshi. Day 7. The capture of the Five Tails, whose Jinchuriki was Han. At this time, the hidden villages are already conducting investigations and beginning to worry about the looming threat. However, no one will convene a Kage summit and try to unite in order to oppose a phantom enemy together. The Third Great Ninja War has only recently ended, and if one of the countries admits that it has lost its tailed beast, the neighbors will immediately learn of its weakness and attack. Day 8. Obito captures Utakata and extracts the Six Tails. Day 9. We do not know for certain whether the Seven Tails was sealed inside Fu at that time. In any case, there will be no problems with Chome. Day 10. It is time to capture the Eight Tails, and this is where things get interesting. After Yugito's disappearance, the Cloud Village strengthened Killer Bee's guard. At that time, he was about 19 years old. Bee himself was a skilled fighter. Let me remind you that before this, he had already managed to fight Minato. Obito infiltrates the village and finds the guarded hideout. He appears behind Bee's back and tries to pull him into Kamui as quickly as possible, but he is interrupted by an explosive tag on a kunai. First, he needs to deal with the guards. If this were Obito with only one Mangekyo, he might have problems. But in our case, the Uchiha possesses the Rinnegan, which simplifies the task. One Shinra Tensei will be quite enough to destroy the building they are in. Yes, let me remind you, the Rinnegan grants access to all paths. If anyone forgot, the anime and manga explained why Obito did not use them during the war. First, controlling the Jinchuriki already consumed a lot of chakra. Second, the Leaf's ninja had already fought Pain and knew how to counter his abilities. However, the owner of the Rinnegan has access to them. In any case, it is just that Obito's combat tactics were always tied to Kamui, and he did not change them because he was used to fighting that way. Let us return to the fight. Killer Bee activates his cloak, survives Shinra, and rushes at Obito at full speed. Obito reacts and entangles his opponent with wood, which, as we remember, restrains the power of the tailed beasts. Immobilizing the target, the Uchiha pulls him into Kamui and then moves there himself. The Raikage, who arrives and tries to attack the uninvited guest, can do nothing. Then Obito impales the immobilized Killer Bee with rods, and he completely loses the ability to do anything. So, although more troublesome, the Uchiha will be able to capture Juki. Day 11. Only the Nine Tails remains. Obito can calmly wait for Kushina's childbirth and capture the fox without problems, as it was in the anime, but this is a speedrun, so let's speed things up. At that time, Kushina was already pregnant, so it is quite possible that her seal was slowly weakening. Besides, as I already said, Obito with his arsenal of abilities will clearly be able to figure out how to weaken the seal and extract the beast. The Uchiha knows Konoha and immediately teleports to his former teacher's home while he is at work. He uses Genjutsu on Kushina and kidnaps her. Voila, the last fragment of the mosaic is assembled. Since the Leaf's Jinchuriki has Minato's seal, Obito will have to extract the fox immediately after the kidnapping and then get rid of Kushina's body. And when the fourth teleports to his wife, he will find only her dead body in another country. Day 12. The plan is almost complete. One can rest one last time, enjoying the view of this doomed world. Obito relaxes, watching new videos on the Kotto channel because he is subscribed. Be like Obito, subscribe and do not miss the most interesting things. Day 13. The Uchiha seals Kurama. The awakening of the 10 Tails begins. At this time, the leaders of the hidden villages are actively searching for the kidnappers of the Jinchuriki, but it is already too late. Before becoming a Jinchuriki himself, Obito needs to remove the cursed seal on his heart. To do this, he can cast Genjutsu on any extra and force him to stab Obito in the chest. In theory, this will not be considered suicide. In the worst case, the guy can kidnap Kakashi and force a fight in the Kamui dimension, so that everything happens as it did in the anime. Immediately after this, the wounded Obito absorbs the resurrected 10 Tails. After some time, consciousness returns to him, and he begins to control his power. By that time, night falls. Obito releases the divine tree, then waits for the bud to bloom. Eventually, the Rinne Sharingan in the flower is reflected off the moon. A new day comes. The world is plunged into the sleep of infinite Tsukuyomi. Obito fulfilled his plan. It took him not 17 years, but only 2 weeks. Naturally, immediately after this, Black Zetsu appears and turns Obito into Kaguya. The goddess of chakra returns, and the former ninja world dies forever. So, if you were tormented by the question of whether Obito could avoid waiting for many years and single-handedly bend the entire world to his will, then yes, he could. True, in that case, there would be no plot. But instead, we got a video like this. If you disagree with something or I missed something, be sure to write in the comments. Thank you for watching.